Hello, welcome back. Another walk and talk. And as promised, I wanted to come back to what happened in the White House Oval Office last weekend, last Friday. It was. I'm speaking now, just under a week later. And for those that need a bit of a refresher, I don't think anyone really does. President Zelensky from Ukraine had landed in Washington to meet Donald Trump and to sign a deal to do with mineral rights, rare earths, where the Americans had been seeking this as a kind of repayment for the support, the resources that they had given to Ukraine in the past and presumably in the future as well, who knows. And after much toing and froing and initial sort of reservations and rejections, Zelensky had agreed to sign, I think, a deal that was slightly modified from the original proposal. And he arrives, it's all looking good, and this looks to be a positive step towards peace. But then you'll remember it all went horribly wrong, and in the end the meeting was curtailed. Zelensky was effectively thrown out of the White House and had to leave, coming via London and then on back to Ukraine. And the story's unfolded since then, so that it now looks like a deal is back on. But in the meantime, America have begun to do things like cancel further support, further arms supplies, and cut off intelligence, which leaves the Ukrainians effectively fighting blind against Russian attacks. But I wanted to just come back and just think about what happened in the White House on that Friday. Because it's fascinating. As I said in the last video, it's interesting how you can have two perspectives, two wildly different views of what happened, with some people seeing Zelensky as this victim in this horrific car crash, hit and run, if you like, or was that he's effectively been taken in and shaken down. I'd ever seen it as President Trump standing up for America, standing up for peace, even, etc., etc. And Zelensky is this con man, as he's been presented by some Americans, just trying to get money, extract support out of America for his own ends, and being caught out. So I thought it was worth just talking back through what had happened. What I'd encourage you to do is to find the full recording of the meeting in the White House and watch it back for yourself and observe what happens. I would actually do it with a pen and paper and start to take note of what is said and done, etc. Because what you'll begin to observe is a few things. What happens is that President Trump, first of all, introduces this meeting in front of the media to explain what is happening, and he's very positive, very we're going to get a deal, it's going to happen, this is fantastic. He actually starts by a lot of praise for Zelensky about his bravery, the bravery of his men, that they've withstood the Russian invasions, all positive noises. But he says, and he's talking about needing peace to stop the bloodshed. He does throw in and to save some money as well, which is fascinating, isn't it? And Zelensky at that stage he's already starting to push back a little, gently, politely. But what he is saying at this stage is that's great, fantastic that this is happening, but really saying that what they're doing, that deal, is a starter. But if there's going to be genuine peace, then there are other things that they need to talk about, and that he's saying this is the kind of thing I would like to talk about with you today. So this is kind of the preamble to hard negotiations, or it's meant to be And what Zelensky says is, um, what we've got to remember is a few things. First of all, that we need security guarantees going forward, that if there's going to be a peace that will last, we need the guarantees in place, that protection is going to be, that there's going to be ongoing support, that just because you get a ceasefire, just because you get a peace deal, doesn't mean it's all sorted and everybody can go home and not have to worry about Ukraine anymore. And then he also begins to talk about what has happened, about areas under occupation, but also about the treatment of prisoners of war that's broken international law, and about the way that the Russians had also kidnapped out of Ukrainian children, and tried to resettle them in Russia, give them new names, new identities, new families. This, again, horrendous illegal act. So what he's saying is, there are things that still need to be settled. We can't just say, okay, we just leave it as it is. There's the matter of land, yes, but there's also the matter of people. People that still need to be properly returned, and people that deserve justice, and that needs to be considered. And he's really saying, I want to talk to you, President Trump, about how that will happen. And in a lot of respects, that's just treated as fair enough. Then later, and with J.D. Vance involved more in the discussions, things start to get a little bit more tense. First of all, there's this moment where a reporter interjects, and the reporter says, hey, President Zelensky, do you own a suit? And it's sort of belittling. But they've got this big hang-up of, you've turned up in the White House not wearing a suit. And that's offensive, and that shows disrespect to the president, to the White House, to the people here. You're in the highest office in this land, and this is how you are dressed. And Zelensky responds actually with a bit of gentle humour. He says, yeah, I do own a suit. And yeah, I'll start wearing it. I think he refers to it as a costume. Bit of a dig there. He says, yeah, I'll wear that when the war is over. And it's a little bit of a, I might get a suit like yours, or better, or cheaper. So it's a bit of teasing back, and fair play to the guy. A bit of humour. But essentially making a crucial point. You see, President Zelensky doesn't wear a suit, and that's a decision, and we have to understand why. Similarly, in the Second World War, Winston Churchill went to the White House, and he didn't wear a suit then. It's worth noting that numerous people have turned up at the White House not in suits over the years. Nelson Mandela, Elon Musk very recently, others as well. But there was no problem with that. Why the problem with Zelensky? And his point is, I'm not wearing it because there's a war. And this is an important principle, that if you are standing with your people, you don't want to be seen as just jet set and enjoying the trappings of power. So not wearing the suit, just wearing the same kind of stuff that his guys on the front line are wearing, and the same clothes he would be wearing if he was back in Ukraine, where they're under these constant bombings, is a way of saying, I'm not enjoying the trappings of power. I may be away from you, but I'm still with you. I'm not off duty. I'm wearing the uniform of being a wartime president in a country that is fighting off immediate invaders. So I want to just pause for a moment and think about that. First, who is disrespecting who? Because isn't there a sense in that line of questioning and in that attitude, which doesn't seem to be challenged or confronted by those in power, that there is a pecking order, that there is a status, that Zelensky is not there as an equal, as a fellow world leader, but as a supplicant, as a vassal, as a subordinate. That's how he's meant to relate to President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. Isn't it he that is disrespected? Isn't it his commitment to stand on duty? And dare I say it, isn't it his men who don't get to wear suits fighting on the front line who are being disrespected as well? And wasn't it disrespectful to the White House, to the office of president, and to the American people for that kind of behaviour to be tolerated and then joined in with? Well, after that, you've got this moment where Vance joins in, and there's some questions or some statements that Vance is really talking about why the Ukrainians need to appreciate what Trump is doing and why they need to comply and show gratitude and all those kinds of things. And it's there where it starts to get very testy. Because Vance talks grandly about diplomacy and negotiation. It's diplomacy that's going to sort all of this out. And Zelensky gently, graciously, respectfully, rationally just begins to talk back and say, you've got to be careful. Diplomacy is great, but when you've got someone who doesn't keep his word, and this is the point, we've done diplomacy with Putin before. It's been happening. This was the response in 2014, wasn't it? And yet, this guy doesn't keep his word. You can do the deal, you can negotiate the peace, but unless there's proper backup, we can't be sure that it will be honoured. Something that actually Trump and Vance should be learning from the other situation that they've got themselves involved in. They have this nice, tidy deal to sort out what is happening in Gaza, and then they discover that Hamas don't keep their word. And that's really exercising them as well at the moment, isn't it? And that's where Vance starts to get even more sharper and hostile. You've not shown gratitude. Have you said thank you? I'm not sure what he's meant to say thank you to President Trump for, because actually it is the previous administration, the Biden administration, that, maybe inadequately, but has provided the weapons, provided the intel, all that kind of thing. All that Trump is going to do is cut that kind of thing off. All that Trump is really doing is saying, give me a minerals deal. All that Trump is doing is demanding payment. If I'm receiving a bill, if I'm getting the invoice, then, whilst there may be some sort of cultural niceties around saying thank you, but actually, I don't owe gratitude. I don't need to say thank you because the other side is getting a benefit from it. It's not something they've graciously done and given for me. We could say that the minerals deal, the money that the US are going to receive, the interest they're going to get in Ukrainian land is the thank you, isn't it? They will have their reward now. And we'll talk about that deal and the issues around it probably in another walk and talk. But then, things really start to turn. And I think it's interesting. If you watch the video back, you'll notice that most of the way through, Trump seems to be in listening mode. Up until this point, he isn't really confrontational with Zelensky. He sits, with that kind of eyes slightly closed kind of thing. But I think he's listening. I'm not sure he's understanding. I'm not sure he's getting it. And I think this is one of the challenges. I think Donald Trump and people like Donald Trump just don't get Vladimir Zelensky and people like Vladimir Zelensky. Because for Trump, it is all about the deal. It is all about settling things and sorting things out so that everybody gets what they want out of it. And essentially, that's about money. And here is somebody who is showing guts and principle that could have fled, that was given the opportunity, a plane out, that could have got to the West and found safety and no doubt at any point found comfort and security and economic success for himself, but chose not to, chose to stay with his people, chose to stay and fight. And he's not just rolling over, he's not just accepting a deal. Somebody who, it turns out, is prepared to eat humble pie, is prepared to do what is necessary when it comes to the question of what does this country need. But that I want to suggest is something that people like Trump just don't get, can't comprehend, don't understand it. It's just outside of their experience, their understanding. Well, then the conversation gets even more tense and lively. There's these strong objections to Zelensky saying you can't trust Putin. And then this really heavy-handed, you've got to be grateful, you've got to show gratitude, you've got to show respect, all those kinds of things. Have you said thank you yet? That kind of thing. And also this sort of heavy-handedness of you need to realise the position you are in, which is actually quite aggressive, quite threatening. You don't hold the cards. You need to comply. The impression that this guy is gambling with a third world war, that he's gambling with his own people, that he doesn't want peace. All of those things are being thrown at Zelensky, and they're absolutely baseless. And then Zelensky challenges them by saying, you might not know what it feels like at the moment to be in the situation that we're in, but a day will come when you will know what it feels like to be under that kind of pressure and in that kind of danger, and to experience the cost of suffering. And that, I think, is when Trump really turns. I think that's what triggers him. I think it's because he mishears it. He mishears a warning, an observation even, as a threat. Of course, Zelensky isn't threatening them. He's not saying, I'm going to do this to you. He's saying, this is what will happen if you appease this guy now. You can delay danger and trouble for yourself, but one day it's going to come. And it's very different to sit in the comfort of the White House at a distance behind your nuclear shield and speak like Trump and Vance do, and to think you can just click your fingers and make a deal, give ultimatums and they will be followed. It's very different to actually be in there and involved. And I want to suggest that we need to pay heed to the things that Zelensky has said. Now, I'm a Christian and I'm interested from a Christian perspective. All of those things are true. You can't do deals with the devil. You can't appease him, especially if you think that you will delay suffering. Suffering will come. There's that question around knowing where our identity is, not in our external clothes. And in fact, needing to be clothed in Christ's righteousness. But I think it's important to hear what Zelensky is saying through this, to understand the immediate situation and what is actually going on at the moment, and the seriousness of it. And I get a feel, not to say that Zelensky is this perfect guy, not to say that we can see into Donald Trump's heart and read all of his motives, all of his emotions. It's fairly obvious that this guy cares about money and privilege and power, but that doesn't mean to say that he doesn't care about peace. But I think we can start to learn some lessons by listening to Zelensky and seeing what is actually going on. And we need to learn to read the world around us well and to understand what is going on as we think about how we are meant to live in it. We'll come back to some of these things in another Walk and Talk.